Steeler fans collectively, it's like they've all grabbed a handful of blue pills and swallowed them all at once. They are excited, very, very excited. The Rockets have been awoken because this offense was fairly flawless through the first. I mean, the offense was the first team offense relatively flawless, right? 5 drives, 5 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, I think the best quarterback rating of any quarterback in the preseason who threw at least 10 passes. The defense, for what it's worth, also shut down every opportunity they were faced with as well in the preseason. So that's the crazy part here, guys, is that both sides of the ball looked really, really good in the preseason. Now, take that for what it's worth. Second and third stringers for Atlanta and Tampa. The middle game against Buffalo, I put a little bit of stock in. They made the Bills look pretty shoddy in that second preseason game. But a lot of it does have to do with, like you said, Nick, Kenny Pickett looks like he's primed for a big jump. We'll see if that continues into the regular season when he's got to face some real defenses like San Francisco in week 1, Cleveland week 2, and beyond. But even if they get just more than the incremental growth that I think some people expected, if it's somewhere between incremental and exponential, I think it's enough that the Steelers go from being maybe a 9-win team that just misses a wild card to a 10-win team that definitely makes the playoffs. That's why I like plus 135 right now at BetMGM for them to make the playoffs. I'm a huge fan of that number.
You need to make sure that Justin Fields is able to make a huge jump as a passer this year. You need to see that he's more than just a 1,000-yard rusher. You want to see him throw for at least 2,900 yards and go over his total for this year, which is only 2,850 and a half, by the way. It's not a high number at all. So if that offensive line can protect for Justin Fields, you're going to get an opportunity. One, teams are going to respect the run. They're going to know that not only Justin Fields can get out and he can make plays with his legs. But if he's able to throw the football too, and you see what Lamar Jackson was for him, it was year 1 to year 2, first year as a starter. If you can see Justin Fields get close to that point, that's going to make the Bears a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think worst case scenario would be Justin Fields isn't the guy, and then you have to find out who the guy is because this year, you added 2 new offensive linemen, you draft a lineman with the top 15 pick, and you give him some actual weapons. Like DJ Moore's there. And so he's got to show that he's an NFL quarterback, and he has to show that he's not just a one-read quarterback, because that was obviously the knock at Ohio State, as it is with many Buckeye quarterbacks. So he's got to prove he's the guy. The other thing is that defense needs to take a step up. You think of the Chicago Bears, you think elite defense, and that just hasn't been the case the last couple of years. We don't really know what Eberflus is as a head coach, so you just got to show some promise. You don't have to win 10, 11 games. Yeah. Maybe you are a year away, but you got a bunch of money to spend these next couple of years, and it looks like Ryan Poles, the general manager, is getting that thing headed in the right direction. So you just don't want to take any steps back because you've done the rebuilding thing, and now it looks like you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, if you have the money to spend as a team, it doesn't matter if free agents don't want to go there. So you got to show that, all right, you're taking that next step. Justin Fields is progressing as a quarterback. Yeah. Then you're going to get free agents there. You can address the needs that you have, whether it's offensive line or adding another receiver or on the defensive side of the football. It doesn't really matter. You just got to figure out what those needs are and then know that you can spend that money and actually lure free agents there. Philadelphia Eagles, the next one up. We know they won the NFC, obviously, last year. Worst case scenario for me is actually their new coordinators and them struggling with their roles. That would be with what you had last year on both sides of the football, you lose both to head coaching jobs. Now you got 2 new guys coming in and taking over the offense, taking over the defense. Now, Brian Johnson, as the offensive coordinator, has already obviously been there working with Jalen Hurts. So if you can help take him to that next level or at least keep him basically where he was this past season, you're in a good spot. But that's what's really important. People don't think about the loss of certain names or faces on a coaching staff until they're gone and you realize how important they actually were. We're going to know very early on how important that coaching staff was to the Eagles last year and whether or not the guys that you've got in those positions now can kind of hack it.
Yeah, that'd be my concern, man. I mean, you lost a lot from that team. Mm-hmm. You bring back a lot as well, but I would just worry maybe a little injury regression. Maybe some of these young guys you're going to rely on, don't pan out year one. Maybe Jalen comes back down to earth, doesn't have an MVP-type season, or maybe he gets dinged early on. But if he stays healthy, I just don't really see them skipping a beat. As far as being an 11-win team, I just think them and Dallas are going to be really, really good. don't really love anybody else other than San Francisco in the NFC, and I have some question marks about Brock Purdy becoming a pumpkin again. So I think that's biggest concern, right, is just injury regression and everything you lost on that coaching staff and in the locker room, too.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, they lost like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's a big loss for them.
Yeah.
Had 6 picks last year. That's a massive loss. Big pickup for the Lions, but at the same time, that's why you're going to have to take that. Jalen Hurts is going to have to still take that next step. He's 11-1 to win MVP. Like, he's going to have to show even more of that growth, which so far we've seen. We've watched him progress every single year. So, like, if he sticks with that, you're like, okay, he's only going to be a better passer this year,
right?
More consistent there, and that in the end, you know this, right? Like, if you got great quarterback play, you can overcome anything in the NFL.
I mean, look, they made a pretty risky call to essentially anoint Sam Howell as QB1 entering the offseason, 8 days after last year ended, with them, collapsing late, missing the playoffs. To do that with a guy with one career start, that is it, who is a fifth-round pick, that is a lot to ask. But the fact that Howell has performed as nicely as he has all spring and summer, he's got the big arm, he can move. They like the way he corrects his mistakes. Like, there's reasons to be optimistic, just at least in terms of the progression. I can't tell you he's going to be a franchise quarterback or lead them to the playoffs, but there's some good progression there. The problem is there's a lot of unknowns that they're going to have to sift through. Not only is Sam Howell a huge unknown by himself, he's playing behind an offensive line that at best its ceiling is like ordinary, it feels like. And at worst, it could be, a significant problem. And then you have Eric Bieniemy, who, look, there are some people who think he will be the next great coach and he's going to be a great play caller and all that. And there's others who think it's going to be a disaster. And we know that he's, has not been able to get a head coaching job. You have to wonder how it is that 15 different franchises, I think, or 14, decided he wasn't the guy for them. Maybe he proves them all wrong, but those are a lot of unknown variables to put together to say, hey, even though the Commanders have a top 10 defense, I'm projecting them to go back to the playoffs or have a winning record. It's possible, but right now there is just too much unknown for me to say they're 100% on the right track for this year. But we'll see. That's why they play the game. We'll see what Hal can do and what the enemy, given this opportunity, can show what he can do. But there's bumps in the road I see ahead as well.